are 3 signs you might not be fully human. And the last one, almost nobody can do it. First, blink control. Can you control your blinking for 5 seconds straight? Sounds easy, but most people fail. When the timer hits 0, like the video without blinking once, this means you're in the top 50%. Secondly is super memory. If you can remember things quickly and clearly, that's rare. Only a small percent of people can do this. Look at this image now. Comment one detail you remember, and that puts you in the top 15%. But before we get to the 0.1%, this is a reaction test that only 1% of people can do. When the red square turns green, subscribe as fast as you can. And last one, left-hander. Only a tiny part of the world uses their left hand for almost everything. If you want to try, here's the challenge. Comment using your left and that.
What happens when even your own parents forget your real name? My real name is Isabella, but for most of my life, nobody actually called me that. The day I was born, my dad looked at me wrapped in that tiny hospital blanket and said, "She looks like a little Boo." And somehow it stuck. At first it was just a cute baby nickname. Good morning, Boo. Did Boo finish her milk? Look at our little Boo walking. My parents said it so much that even our relatives started using it. By the time I started preschool, the teachers heard my parents call me Boo so often that they assumed it was my real name. So roll call sounded like, Emma, here. Daniel, here. Boo. And 5-year-old me would proudly raise my hand. I didn't even question it. But things started getting weird around middle school. New classmates would ask, "Wait, your actual name is Boo?" And I'd laugh and say, "No, it's Isabella." But the truth was, hearing that name felt strangely unfamiliar. At home, no one ever said it. Not once. If my mom was calling me for dinner, it was always, "Boo, food's ready." If my dad cheered at my soccer games, he'd yell, "Go Boo." My friends picked it up too. Soon even my teachers started calling me Boo. It was like Isabella only existed on official documents. Then came senior year, college applications. For the first time in my life, I had to write my full legal name everywhere. Isabella Carter? It looked strange, almost like I was pretending to be someone else. A few months later, the acceptance letters arrived. I ran into the kitchen holding one. "Mom, I got in." She grabbed the envelope, read the first line, and frowned.
Y'all ever sit back and think about those friends from elementary or middle school? The ones you used to see every single day like they were family? Back then, life felt so simple. You'd laugh about the dumbest things, draw on desks, argue about who got the last Capri Sun, and somehow those moments felt like they'd last forever. You couldn't imagine a life where you weren't in the same classroom, sitting next to each other, complaining about homework together. But then you grow up, and people start drifting away without even realizing it. No fight, no drama, just eventually switching schools, and time doing its thing. One day you're sharing inside jokes, and the next you're liking each other's posts once a year. It's weird how people who once knew every detail about your life can suddenly become strangers with familiar names. Every now and then, I'll think about them and wonder where they are now. Did they end up chasing the dreams they talked about at recess? Are they happy? Do they still laugh the same way? It's crazy how we spend years building memories with people, only to watch life quietly scatter everyone in different directions. And I don't hold any bitterness about it, just a quiet kind of nostalgia. I genuinely hope they're doing okay, that they found peace, love, and people who make them feel seen. Because even though we don't talk anymore, a small part of me will always root for them till this day. Here are some things your parents are not allowed to do. First, they can't read your diary or personal messages without permission. That's a violation of your privacy, even if you're a minor. Second, they can't physically punish you in ways that leave marks or cause injury. That is illegal in most places. And lastly, they can't kick you out before you're 18. If they do, that's child abandonment, and they can face serious legal consequences.
My entitled sister abandoned her 3 children, so I raised them. Years later, they offer me money as a thank you, but she demands it. My sister Tina was always the one who got everything handed to her. Growing up, she was the pretty one, the fun one, the one my parents never said no to. I was the responsible one who got good grades and stayed out of trouble. Tina got pregnant at 19, then again at 21, then again at 23. 3 different dads, none of them sticking around. And honestly, I didn't judge her for that. Life happens. What I judged her for was what came next. When her youngest was barely 2, Tina showed up at my apartment at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. She had all 3 kids with her. Her oldest was 7, the middle one was 5, and the baby was still in diapers. She had 2 garbage bags full of their clothes and a look on her face I'll never forget. She said she met someone, a guy named Paul who was moving to Arizona for work. He didn't want kids, he wanted her, and she wanted him. I asked her what she expected me to do with 3 kids. She said it would only be for a few months, just until she got settled. She'd send money, she'd call every week, she promised. Then she kissed each of them on the forehead, told them to be good for Auntie, and walked out my door. The oldest, a girl named Sophie, didn't cry. She just stared at the door like she was waiting for it to open again. The middle one, a boy named Wes, asked if this was a sleepover. The baby, Ivy, was already asleep in my arms. That first night, I put them all in my bed and slept on the floor next to them. I had no idea what I was doing. I was 26, single, working as an administrative assistant, making barely enough to cover my own rent. Now I had 3 kids. Tina didn't send money. She called twice in the first month, then once the next month, then nothing. Her number got disconnected. I found out through our cousin that she and Paul were living in some apartment complex in Scottsdale. She posted pictures on Facebook of her at pool parties and restaurants. No mention of her kids. I went to our parents for help. My mom said she was too old to raise more children. My dad said Tina would come back eventually. They sent $200 and that was it, so I figured it out. I switched to a night shift at a call center because it paid more and I could be home during the day. I found a daycare that offered sliding scale fees. I learned how to braid Sophie's hair by watching YouTube
Let's see if you don't recognize yourself anymore. If you raise more than 4 fingers, maybe you are just tired of being who everyone expected you to be. Let's start. Raise a finger if you look at yourself and feel different from who you used to be. Raise a finger if you miss the version of you that felt lighter. Raise a finger if the first person that appears when you hit share and then more used to mean a lot to you. Raise a finger if you act differently now without knowing exactly why. Raise a finger if you stop doing things you once loved. Raise a finger if your personality feels quieter than before. Raise a finger if you feel disconnected from your old dreams. If you raised more than 4 fingers, you didn't lose yourself. You just became someone shaped by everything you survived.
My parents kept breaking into my apartment, so I moved without telling them and let them panic. When I got my first apartment, my parents asked for a spare key in case of emergencies. I gave them one, and that's when the problem started. The first sign of trouble was coming home and finding my throw pillows rearranged. Mom had stopped by to drop off some containers I didn't ask for. She said she just wanted to make sure I was settling in okay. I told her to call first next time. She laughed and said, "You're my daughter. I don't need an appointment." A few weeks later, I found my sister's shampoo in my shower. Mom said, "Becca needed somewhere to crash when she was in town. I told her she could use your place since you were at work." No one had asked me. I told Mom this wasn't acceptable. She said I was being selfish. A month after that, I noticed my mail had been opened. Dad said, "I was just checking if anything important came." I sat them down and asked for my key back. Mom started crying and called me paranoid and ungrateful. Dad crossed his arms and said, "We're not giving the key back. We're your parents." So I changed the locks. I called a locksmith the next day and had new deadbolts installed. I didn't give my parents a copy. Problem solved, or so I thought. 2 weeks later, I came home from work and found my mother sitting on my couch. I froze in the doorway. I said, "How did you get in here?" She smiled and held up a key. She said, "I called the landlord and explained I was your mother and needed access in case of emergency." He was very understanding. I was shaking. I said, "You went behind my back to my landlord?" She rolled her eyes. She said, "Don't be dramatic. I'm your mother. I have a right to check on you." I called my landlord that night and told him under no circumstances was he to give anyone access to my apartment. He apologized and said my mother had been very convincing. I thought that would be the end of it. A month later, I came home to find my window screen popped out and my window open. Nothing was stolen, but my laundry had been folded and put away. There was a casserole in my fridge with a note that said, "You're not eating enough. Love, Mom." I called her immediately. I said, "Did you climb through my window?" She said, "The door was locked. What was I supposed to do? I made you dinner and you're yelling at me." I said, "You broke into my apartment." She said, "It's not breaking in when it's family." I called my dad. I said, "Mom broke in through my window. This has to stop." He said, "Your mother worries about you. If you just give us a key like a normal daughter, she wouldn't have to do this. You're the one making this difficult." That night, I realized I would never win. I could change every lock, seal every window, and they would find another way in. The only solution was to disappear completely. I found an apartment across town in a building with a doorman and a strict guest policy. I signed the lease without telling anyone. I took a Friday off work without telling my parents. I rented a moving truck and called 2 friends. We had my entire apartment empty by 3 p.m. I cleaned until it looked like no one had ever lived there and turned in my keys that afternoon. For the next 3 days, I answered my parents' texts like nothing had changed. Mom sent me a recipe and I replied with a thumbs up. Then I stopped responding. The second day, my phone blew up. 23 missed calls. The last voicemail from Mom was hysterical. She was saying, "We're at your apartment and it's completely empty. There's nothing here. Where are you?" I waited an hour before calling back. When Mom answered, she was sobbing. She said, "We thought something terrible happened. Your apartment is empty." I kept my voice calm. I said, "Why would..."
Name just one person you know that would laugh at you if you fell down some stairs in front of them.
Last time I tried learning how a tampon works, all the girls said I have to do it with red liquid so it's more realistic. So your wish is my command. Here we go. So I don't remember how I did it the first time. I'm pretty sure we just push down. No? Wait, I forgot actually. Do I push? Okay, all right. There we go. Do I have to tug it? Okay. And then, oh, we just drop it in, right? Boom. Okay. No, oh, don't drop that part. I still don't understand how this expands inside, you know. It's almost like a tea bag when you think about it. Maybe it tastes like tea too. No. It's been about 30 seconds. Let's take it out now. Oh, wait, this looks like an icy pop. Why does it look kind of good? It's kind of making me want to try it. I can't lie. Never mind. I'm not gonna try. I rate this a 7 out of 10. Wait, what am I even rating?
I barely sat down in first period when my teacher looked up and froze. "Why are you here?" "Because it's Monday," I said slowly, confused as hell. She got up and walked over to my desk, leaning down close. "Have you talked to anyone this morning? Checked your phone?" Her voice cracked. I shook my head. "Studied till 3 and forgot to charge it. What's happening?" Everyone's eyes dropped to their notebooks at the exact same time. Ms. O'Connor grabbed my hand and gave it a couple squeezes. "Please, just go to the office." My heart started racing because something was seriously wrong. I grabbed my dead phone and my backpack and headed for the door. I was halfway down the hall when I spotted my best friend Justin coming out of the bathroom. The second he saw me, Justin grabbed me in the tightest hug. "Dude, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about Devin." Devin. My brother's name hit me like ice ice water. Devin, who was 24 and still lived at home. What about Devin? My voice sounded far away. Justin pulled back, his eyes red. You don't know? Dude, everyone saw it on the way to school this morning. The accident on Route 47. Your brother's red Jeep. He paused, swallowing hard. Devin loved that Jeep more than anything. I was already running. Mom was at the office, signing me out with shaking hands. The secretary couldn't meet my eyes. Mom just grabbed my arm and guided me toward the parking lot. Her face was pale and her lips were pressed into a thin line. Mom, is Devin okay? She just unlocked the car and got in. I got in, my heart pounding. Your dad is on his way home from his work trip, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. We're waiting for a call. But Devin, she cut me off before I could finish. When we get home, we'll talk when we get home. Her voice was firm, but I could hear the tremor underneath. The drive felt like hours. Mom's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I kept trying to make sense of it. The Jeep, the accident, Devin. Mom stayed in the car on the phone. I used my key. The house was quiet, too quiet. Then I heard it, Sports Center. I walked into the living room and there he was, Devin, on the couch in boxers and that stupid Metallica shirt with the holes in it, eating cereal straight from the box, very much alive. What the hell? I said. He looked up annoyed. Shouldn't you be at school? You're dead. The words came out flat. Everyone thinks you're dead. Your Jeep. My Jeep? He sat up, confused. What about my Jeep? Devin, someone died in your Jeep this morning, going 100 on Route 47. He ran to the window, looking at the empty driveway, his face pale. Very funny. Did you and your friends move it or something? Where is it really? I'm not kidding. The whole town thinks you're dead, Devin. Before he could respond, Mom burst through the front door. She took one
Here's how these things actually work. I bet you didn't know how to actually use the Tic Tac container. You tip it down like this and a Tic Tac lands in the perfect slot. And those tiny ketchup containers that you get at McDonald's, they're actually meant for you to unfold so you can hold way more. Have you ever wondered what those little black dots are on a car's windshield? It's actually there to hide the glue which holds the glass in place. Have you ever wondered what the blue side of an eraser is for? And no, it's not for pen. It's actually meant to erase pencil on thicker paper. Have you ever wondered what those do not eat packets are that come in a ton of things? It's meant to soak up moisture to keep things from getting moldy.
Why do the best chips in these boxes always have the least amount of bags? Like, nobody wants more Fritos than Cool Ranch Doritos. Ooh, that was a bar. I'm out here rapping, I'm stacking, I'm making it happen.
The country that eats the most fruit in the world is China. The country that eats the least fruit in the world is Romania. The country that eats the most meat in the world is Australia. The country that eats the least meat in the world is India. The country that eats the most chocolate in the world is Switzerland. The country that eats the least chocolate in the world is Japan. The country that eats the most rice in the world is Bangladesh. The country that eats the least rice in the world is Canada. The country that eats the most fast food in the world is America. The country that eats the least fast food in the world is North Korea.